Farming artifacts is a scam. No, this is not a casual argument. I want to remind you all that I'm a theory crafting channel, so when I say that artifacts are a scam, what I really mean is that they're mathematically a scam. A common scenario if you played Genshin for more than 2 days and you're in an artifact domain is this one. I imagine that a possible natural reaction to such misfortune would be, oh, unlucky me, let's try again. And again, and again, and again, and again. You repeat this cycle over and over and over, and at one point you realize something is off. But what is, exactly? Well, I'm sure that any veteran player will be able to tell that farming artifacts is hell. I've taken a look at the odds, and through some basic statistics skills, I've been able to analyze just how bad this whole minutely organized grinding structure is for you, the player. Before we jump to that, let me remind you all to hit the subscribe button and leave a thumbs up. I put a lot of hours into my mathematical analysis of Genshin, and if you enjoy my work, you can show your support in these simple ways. Let's start by dividing our problem in different scenarios, each of them represented by values called crit value. Crit value is simply the combination of crit damage and a scaled up version of crit rate, and that's commonly how artifacts are evaluated. The sum of all of your crit stats coming from your artifacts, excluding set bonuses, forms the crit value. Starting from this basis, we can effectively group entire artifact sets by how high their cumulative crit value is. A 20 crit value set is generally what people call a passable, entry-level set, the bare minimum. A 30 crit value set is generally when you can start saying, okay, I'm satisfied, enough with the shit farming. Lastly, a 40 crit value set is what will get you insulted if you show it to any other Genshin player. But how are they said to get this? The answer is not pretty. This is the probability of getting each specific artifact piece with either at least 20 crit value or at least 30 crit value, with an expense of 2000 resin, which will be equivalent to 100 domain runs. As you can see, in this case the odds will be in your favor only if you're aiming for a flower or a plume of at least 20 crit value. The other odds, representing artifact pieces who have more varied main stats, are much lower, especially the goblet. Looking at the full picture makes it even worse, because ideally you'd like to get a full set of pieces. The silver lining here is that Genshin allows us to use an off piece while still getting the full set bonus effects, since it only goes up to 4 pieces. So, most players use an offset goblet, and that certainly raises the odds of completing your artifact set in a relatively short time frame. If we increase the resin expense to more than 4000, the outlook only starts being somewhat promising for the 20 crit value set, which, in case you've forgotten already, is just okay in terms of relative performance. What you might be wondering now is why exactly I've picked this specific amount of resin expense. My reasoning will take us to the second part of the video. The thing is, artifacts are far from being the only layer of investment in Genshin Impact, but they're by far the most expensive in terms of resin. To put this in perspective, you need just a bit more than 2000 resin to get all the talent and ascension materials to max your characters, and it only gets to over 4000 if you also need to farm all the needed more and experience from leylines, which is unusual these days. What I'm getting at is that since there is such a drastic difference between artifacts and other types of investment, optimizing your artifacts should be the very last thing you do on your account. Have you maxed all your character's talent levels yet? Have you brought all your high base attack weapons to level 90 yet? If the answer is no to either or both of them, you're probably missing out on damage increases that will largely outshine slight artifact upgrades. It can take you months to get even a single crit stat increase if you already have a decent set, while it will take you just a few days to maximize the other aspects. Of course, things like talent levels can have a varying impact on your characters depending on how much of their total damage they affect. In general, a talent level up can increase the damage dealt by a single ability up to 7%, And this has a noticeable impact if it's an ability that constitutes a big part of your character's damage, which for example is the case for auto attacks when it comes to Wanderer or Hutao. Generally, if the damage contribution of an ability is higher than 40%, then increasing its talent level will have a better impact than getting an additional crit stat. Of course, characters like Alhaitham have relatively lower talent level scaling than others, because part of their damage is coming from elemental reaction procs that don't get affected by talent multipliers. And wait, there is another thing, which is very important since we're getting new artifact sets soon. Generally, the difference between a character's best set and his second best set won't be higher than 10%. There are some exceptions, like the upcoming Golden Troop set for Fischl, but they're very rare, since every additional crit stat is around a 2% increase on average assuming you maintain a perfect crit ratio. Even a small substat difference can nullify the advantage best sets have. Let's imagine this scenario where the new set comes out, and it's 10% better than the second best option for a character you have already built, with a 210 crit value set. How long would it take you to get a full set that can match it? The answer is that the odds are only in your favor if you aim for a high crit value flower and plume, and you accept the unfortunate fate of getting a low crit value sans, which is what typically happens in Genshin every time. In short, while you should aim to get decent sets, upgrading them past that point will be an Herculean effort, one that is not worth your time and resin.